now they've made in Ghana that people are investing into industries that are very good. And this is foreign investment. If they are not happy with their business, they'll run away. If they run away, we lose as a country. Okay, so we need to talk about those stuffs. Then society, where we find ourselves, the perception. Yeah, nobody has spoken about perception. So there is an issue of perception in affordable housing. What are Ghanaians ready to live in? What kind of house are they ready to stay in? Some people want their hall to be as big as this space. Some people don't mind having a little cubicle for a hall. Maybe me, I don't have a TV because I have smartphones and computers, you understand? So some people want to have some big screen very far away. Some people want a master bed, so they want big bedrooms. Some people don't mind shrink bed because they barely sleep. You know the computer guys, they barely have a bed. You get it? So there is an issue of perception as well, because the moment the man wants some very Europeanized house, and at one presentation we learned, you realize that you build affordable housing, you use made in Ghana materials to save cost. And then the person comes, he strips off all the affordable components of the house, brings some Europeanized expensive materials, because his taste is very foreign. You understand? So the society is inside. And then now, whether we are keeping it to middle class, lower class, or higher class, and who is even the middle class, or lower class, or higher class right now. So let's define our middle class today. For the purpose of this lecture, who are we building affordable housing for? Average household income. Where should we peg it? Yes, you can ask questions.
I
Yes.
find out. I mean, a cursory look at the rate at which the cost of land goes up in this country.
Yes.
It's amazing. Just as I was navigating from the Aviation Social Center curve,
Yes.
like the last commission curve, I was coming from the Burma Camry.
Okay.
I saw one plot of land is legal.
Yes.
200,000 USD.
Oh, that's very cheap.
Yes, and I was like, what is happening? Is it because of the land ownership?
Yes.
Or is it because our development is so centralized in Accra that everybody wants
Yes.
to move here? That is pushing the cost of land up. Because I was on a panel with a World Bank rep in
Yes.
one of the higher institutions. We were assessing some students. And during our conversation, it came out that when it comes to real estate,
Yes.
Ghana is the most expensive in the world.
Yes.
And if you also travel out, they use same materials that we use here.
Yes.
Even if you do the mathematics in terms of tax component and everything,
Yes.
it does not commensurate with the rate at which houses or materials just goes off the roof.
Yes.
What
is happening?
What is happening? I mean, it's so confusing.
Yes.
Rent, is it because we don't have any regulation?
Yes.
I mean, it's amazing the rate at which, when it comes to the construction industry. And I personally know people who have moved out of this country to buy houses in other African countries because
Yes, which is very true.
cannot afford in their own country. So if you can give us any explanation to that,
Yes.
that'll be fine. Thank you.
I have the economic answer and I have the political answer. Which one do you like? Okay, I'll give you the two. So usually the economic answer, nobody speaks about it. That is, you see, when you said 200,000, it was a very cheap plot of land for East Legon. I know someone who has bought a plot of land at East Legon for $1 million. He had a house on it, and they pull it down. It's a dynamic about real estate. We need to talk about that dynamic as well. When people start making money, what do they think? They want to invest in real estate because they want to be rich, right? Real estate is the place where wealth is accumulated. So it's so liberal that government liberation that hardly works there, because even the government is making money from that place because you charge them property tax.
But I'm thinking that it is not peculiar to Ghana. I mean, West Africa,
Yes.
when you go to Southern Africa, Eastern Africa.
Yes.
I mean, the
They are
dynamics
better.
are not so different.
I'm going to get there. I'll
right.
tell you. Don't worry. So let's see. Ahead in the lecture, we'll get to the place where I would say, because of your question, let me say it now. I would say that if building a house becomes affordable, or the person who is buying the house become more capable to build, he will leave where he's renting and go into his own house. When he leaves, the demand comes down. When the demand comes down, the renter will be compelled to reduce the rental price. That's the issue of supply and demand. This is what happens on stock exchange. And that's why during COVID, fuel price came down. Nobody was buying it. The infrastructure and basic input cost is still stable. So you have to sell. And a lost rent is lost forever. That's the problem in Ghana. And that's the problem in Accra. And the worst state of that problem is where we are now, Airport City. This is the most expensive meter square, cost per meter square in Ghana. You know why? Because this place is in a global competition. It has no respect for the cedi. It has no respect for the Ghanaian income. Because it's not Ghanaians that are renting this place. So land price is about value. And value is complicated. There can be a whole lecture on value, you know. Now, value consists of cost. Land, what's the cost of land? Zero. We didn't manufacture it. We came to meet it, and we'll leave it behind, right? But input, so now registration, litigation, right? Back kick. You have to pay the lands commission guys. Cost of marketing, right? All those stuff. Then that is on a balance with potential. So if the land is here, and I can make $1 million a month from my land, why should I sell that land for you for $50,000? You understand? So that is a complicated issue. So all over the world, this is what happens to land, which is the reality. At the center of town, usually closest to the most famous international airport, that's where the land is most expensive because the demand is highest there. You get it? And this demand is driven by investment opportunities. You get it? So can we work numbers, dollars? I was trying to have an agreement with my father that if someone's office is at Silver Star Tower and he has a cubicle for $500 a month, and they ask the managing director of the company to stay within 10 minutes from Silver Star Tower, he needs to stay at an apartment off the road. This managing director of an international company has a rent quota of $2,000. Okay. When the light goes off, he's losing his breath. When the internet goes off, he's losing his breath. He cannot afford to see a stray dog in his area. You understand? To talk less of an unidentified man. So his demands are very high. He's ready to pay premium. So when real estate investors see this person, the house that could have rented for $1,000 now rents for $2,000. The price of the land value has doubled in just one investor coming to town. That's what happened to Takrady when they discovered oil. Because international investors were coming. These people were moving billions of dollars. And they don't want to stay in tattered houses. They want high-rise. They want more security and those things. So prices just move up. So that's the first issue. So the price is highest at the center of town. Then it goes down as you go out of town. So it's just demand that push it downwards. Because nobody is willing to pay. So you can only price as high as someone is willing to pay. You understand? So there is a demographic issue where the desirability of the place comes in. So when the ones ask that, what's the price of a haunted house? Nobody wants it. So you are going to sell it for cheap. Sometimes houses beside cemeteries. There's a story in Ghana where they said someone was buried on the land, so people didn't want to buy. So another developer who realized that the land value there is good enough, he bought it, exhumed the body, put a high rise on it. So that land probably moved from $50,000 to $1 million land. You cannot regulate it. Because when you start making money, they will tell you to buy land and wait for it to appreciate, right? How do you know that it has appreciated? When someone is willing to pay more for it. So land in East Legon is only being limited by land in Airport City. If land in Airport City's price goes down, land in East Legon will go down because nobody is coming there. But now you see that offices are coming up there because it's cheaper than Airport City. That's the only reason. And the managing director can afford to stay. You know, usually you have like a regional manager who is moving from countries to countries. he touches down at the airport. He wants to be in the office in 10 minutes. He has a 30 minutes meeting and he goes out. You get it? So pricing of land is iterative and is demand-based. The moment someone is ready to pay more for it, the price skyrockets.
See, the point is, my point
Yes.
this thing dynamics we are talking about, it's not peculiar to Ghana.
Yes.
Globally, everybody knows that when demand goes up and supply is low,
Yes.
prices will go up. I mean,
Yes.
it is normal. How come in Ghana it looks astronomical? It doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Don't we have regulations? There are places where people have regulations, and if you fall foul of the law, it bites.
Yes. That's true.
I mean, it looks like there's a whole confusion out there. That's my worry. And people have, and I know people who wants to set up their headquarters here in Ghana, and because of that, they move to other countries because of the cost.
It's true.
So I think that there might be an unknown hand somewhere that is pulling the strings to the disadvantage of citizens as a whole. I have no idea, but you guys are experts, so if you can explain.
My colleague expert here has some more ideas. Yes.
Not an expert.
Yeah, the mics. Okay, so I think it's going to need some. All the other two. I think I need another hand. Okay. The other mics. Yeah.
So you're saying that it's not particular to Ghana. This is a global problem, yeah? So why is Ghana experiencing it at a faster rate and a more obvious rate than other countries? I think because you mentioned the point about how the airport city is like trying to be a market for expats.
Yes.
Yeah? And I think over the last 10 years, Ghana has really opened its doors to international investments.
Yes.
Bearing in mind how the land here is so fertile and it's right near the coast and transportation, and there's just so much natural resources in the ground that Ghanaian politicians know there's money in the ground that has to be extracted. And it's always the overseas investments and the overseas labor and the manpower and the equipment that makes responsible extracting those resources.
Yes.
So then Ghana has to ask itself, how do we accommodate these expats?
Yes.
How do we make it seem bigger than it is? Almost like trying to deceive the world into thinking it's not an African country.
Yes.
So they market the center of Ghana, Accra City Airport, as being something more than what Ghana really is. It's only a very small percentage of Ghana that is developed.
Yes.
That's the part you see on the news when you're trying to attract overseas investments. Now, when you do that, you're almost changing the terrain to the point where it's no longer fit for the average Ghanaian citizen.
Yes.
And therefore, it's not even affordable for the average Ghanaian citizen. You start pricing in dollars because you know people overseas use dollars, not CDs.
Yes.
They can afford to pay for it. They get paid in dollars.
Yeah.
After a while, the land is no longer even affordable to the average person or even a higher class
It's
person.
not even available to Ghanaians. If you have CDs, you can't buy a $200,000 land. That's how much in CDs? That's like 3 million Ghana cedis for a plot of land.
Essentially, a plot of land is only available to be purchased by an elite Ghanaian
Yes.
or a very high performing, like a CEO or an MD of an international company.
Yes.
At that point, it becomes ridiculous to talk about buying a piece of land in airport unless you know you've got millions of dollars in the bank.
Yes. That's very true. I hope
I think
we
it's
are
kind of
understanding the dynamics.
I think it's kind of a slippery slope over the last 10 years where Ghana has just let itself go.
It still doesn't make sense. Because
No, it will never make sense. That's the worst part of it.
if you are in a developed economy where almost everything is saturated,
Yes.
right? That is why
Sorry. Thank you. Sorry.
if you are in a developed economy where there's no room for growth
Yes.
and expansion, simple economics will tell you that the prices of goods and services, especially land, rent, and those things will go up. Here we are in a developing economy. You want people to come here and invest. I know people want to recoup their investment quick, but it doesn't make sense when prices of goods and services in a developing economy way above a developed economy. I mean, look at our infrastructure. Road is so poor.
Yes.
Sometimes you move to places, our toilets are so bad, so clean. The buildings are not even up to world standards and all that. Yet, it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, so you know where I'm coming from. I mean,
Yes.
when
When
you
is that?
do all these things, it becomes a big problem.
Yes.
Is it because we have issues with land tenure, ownership of land belongs to?
It's part of the main cost.
Is it because regulations are not being enforced?
It's part of the main cost.
So these are the things we need to look at. Or is it because the industry itself is making supernormal profits so nobody talks about it? Because you see, in some sense, if you play by the volumes, okay, you make more money than value. Houses are not being occupied by people.
Yes. A lot of ghost houses.
Yes, they are empty.
They're actually empty.
So I think that this is a discourse that should not end here.
Yes.
Okay, we need to look at it. I mean, for instance, you work for GREDA, don't you?
Yes, I work with GREDA.
You work with GREDA. So these are some of the things that
we need to push.
start. Yes. Today, everybody gets a small land and they start building.
Yes.
Maybe half of the construction, halfway through, he moves his family in there, then they stay there because there are houses that they can't pay for.
Yes.
Okay, so
which is also another issue. It's a whole issue on its own. Uncompleted homes.
So if you use only the global index as a way of shoring up prices, it does not make sense to me.
It's true.
All right. Thank you.
I think Mr. Sante had an input to make. I hope we are having an understanding on this issue. And that's what I believe, because when it comes to housing and real estate, we are all professionals and we have our unique opinions that can be backed. So it's about meeting each other halfway. I hope we have that distance. So let's listen to Mr. Sante.
Yeah, I think...
That's our friend. Okay. Okay, yeah, the call.
All right. So I get where Kweku is coming from, yeah. But I think it goes down to the basics. If you are selling lands and houses in dollars, in a country that you're paying 99% of the citizens in cedis, what do you expect?
That's true.
You understand? So if I go to a place like East Legon and I want to buy a land and you actually quote to me immediately in dollars, I go to airports, you quote to me in dollars, in cantonment in dollars, what are you communicating? You understand? You're communicating that if I earn in cedis, it's not for me.
Yeah, which is true.
Straight away, it's not for me. You understand? So if we are even beginning to have the conversations on the governmental levels where we say let's actually cut down on the use of of the dollars when it comes to buying of products, externally and all those kind of things. I think the conversation should actually start with don't use dollars when it comes to anything.
When you are down here. Yeah.
You understand? I find it ridiculous. I find it ridiculous because one time I went to pay, a subscription for my TV, and when I got there, the price had actually increased. 2 months before then, I actually went to pay for 6 months or so, and I went to do, a top up, and they told me that the price had actually increased, and I asked why. They said because the
dollar has gone up.
Like,
which one concerned me?
You understand? I found it absurd. I found it very absurd. I got a bit upset. I talked about it, and then from the corner of my eyes, I saw an employee looking at me in a certain way. So I turned around and I asked him, "Why are you looking at me like that? Why are you looking at me like that?" And then I asked him, "Okay, dollar is up. They're actually charging me more.
Are they paying you more?
Your salary, based on the increase in the dollar. Have they increased your salary?" So yes, dollar is up. You're actually charging your customers more. But the people who work for you, do you also increase it according to the rise in dollar? So it goes up, land is up, something is up, another thing is up. Now, the person that you've actually employed is at a disadvantage.
Yes. And we suffer
And
the
those
most.
are 99% of the people in the country.
Yeah.
So the conversation, I think it should go back to the basics of, are we running a dollar economy in Ghana
In this country.
or a CD economy in Ghana?
What do you think?
You and I know, it's very instant. So, and then you go to a hotel, it's the same thing.
Yeah,
You
they
go
charge
to
$100.
actually rent a car to drive for a week in East Legon Cantonment or anything, it's the same
$100.
thing. You understand? So I think we should actually go back to that and
We need to look at that.
begin to have a solution.
This one we have to send a petition to the president and our famous Minister of Finance.
Actually, yeah, I think he's opening up a different part of the conversation
Yes.
where the issue was about the price, like how many dollars it's worth.
Yes.
And then the question is, why are we pricing it in dollars? That's a more important question.
Yes. Sorry.
And if you look at, since 2011, it was like 2 CDs to a pound or $1, I think it was, yeah?
Yeah.
And now it's about 14, 16 to a pound, 14 to $1. That's 700% increase in inflation over 10 years, averaging 70% a year.
That's why your savings doesn't make sense after 10 years.
Absurd.
So then if you're owning a house or a piece of land, you see your value whittling away and you say, you know what, I'm going to protect myself. I'm going to price it in
Somewhere
dollars,
I can have
and then I will
value.
get people who get paid in dollars and they will pay me for it. And automatically you've already eliminated 95% of the people from buying your land.
Yes.
And that's why East Legon is full of expats, Airport Hills, parts of Abelempe, Airport City. These are known to be expat areas.
Okay.
Then the issue becomes of the amount of dollars that a piece of land is worth. That is supply and demand. As you said quite clearly, if someone is there willing to pay $1 million for a piece of land, and someone else says, I'll pay you $1.2 million, what will you take?
Who would you pick? I'll be understanding.
It's not a crime to want to accept more money for your land. Yeah.
You get
You would
it?
want more.
And the government get an extra piece of property tax out of
And
it.
they get some more tax.
They will push you to take the higher price. Keep increasing the price of your land.
We make more money together.
You make more money, and then so do we.
You get it? So that's the bigger challenge right now, where the bigger macroeconomics comes in. That how do we price a piece of land? It's the same as it is here, as it is in my hometown. It costs 5,000 cedis in my hometown, and it's costing $200,000 at East Legon. I know somewhere in East Legon that it costs $1 million. You get it? So when you are pricing land, that's the problem with pricing land. It's about the potential value you can get from it. Because the land is 10% of the value you can get from it. So if you are mining oil on the land, it's a piece of land, but there is oil inside. You cannot sell it for $1 million. You get it? If you are mining gold, it changes. If you can put Silver Star Tower on the land, it's no longer $500,000. It's a $1 million land. You understand? If you put a small hotel on it, like let's say a regular business, then it becomes a $50,000 land. Sorry, I'm quoting dollars again.
That's what I wanted to say. You understand? I wanted to even stop him there and say, you see that you're having a conversation with us,
Yes.
and you're saying,
I'm quoting dollars.
you understand, which is a problem already.
And you know where that problem came from? My cousin, my rich cousin, I call him, he was buying tiles. He had asked of the price. He was mobilizing the money. Nowadays, when you are buying stuff in Ghana, you get to the shop, you get a shock of your life. You go back, you check your EcoBank account, you cash. You check your Stanbic account, you cash. You check Momo, you cash. You call a friend, so I make call to 75K, you cash. When he mobilized the money, he came back, the price had increased. That's how volatile the CD is. You get it?
I actually don't blame you too much when you were quoting dollars just then, because let's say you're building properties, yeah? And you start wanting to get finishing items for your properties.
Yes.
And how much of the materials in Ghana are imported now? I mean, it's ridiculous. Napkins, toothpicks. what is made in Ghana anymore. And when you buy internationally, the dollar is the world's reserve currency.
Yes.
Every country in the world, bar a few, 4 or 5, use dollars at some point in their international transactions. So when you've bought the price of the land in dollars and you've paid for the concrete in cedis, but then all your tiles, all your washroom fittings, even your paint is in dollars, you say to yourself, why would I quote a rental price or a buying price in cedis? I'll lose my money. I'll need 40 years payback, but I can get it in 20 if I quote it in dollars. And half of my potential red tenants are all expats. They're working for oil companies and bankings and minings. They get paid in dollars. Why would I not quote in dollars? Eventually the conversation switches. You don't even mention CDs when you're talking about investments or construction. You subconsciously use the word dollars like you did just there. Because even I do the same thing. It's a really hard habit to break when you're talking about dollar this, dollar that, and you suddenly don't start mentioning CDs. Unless you're talking about very basic items like food and water.
Yes. You get it? So that's a local content issue. Yeah, let me give you the mics. Yeah. Because of the local content, what's the other ones? Okay.
So yes, I agree with you based on where you're coming from. But I think another problem with that is that it becomes a thing. And I think it's the mentality of our people.
Wow.
Fortunately, I've been in other African, countries like Nigeria and Ivory Coast. Yeah, Nigeria imports as well, very much, but you would never hear a Nigerian quote anything at all in dollars. Nigerians import probably 20 times more than we do here in Ghana.
Yes.
Yeah, but they would never quote house, anything, rent, anything in dollars because of the mentality of the people. First of all, if you do, the person that you are actually quoting to will get upset with you. Why are you telling me anything in dollars?
Yes.
I mean, I'm here in Nigeria. Ivory Coast is the same thing. Recently, a friend actually told me that they are importing rice from Ivory Coast for Christmas here in Ghana. Why? Because Ivorians would not exactly do that. Nigerians, the same thing. You understand? So for me, I think that it is something that has to do with the people of Ghana.
Yes.
I think it's something that has to do with the fact that we've actually adopted it and we've become comfortable with it. Now we can communicate in it. In fact, there is actually a thing of pride in it.
We actually thrive in it.
We actually thrive in it, exactly. You understand? It's now a thing of pride. It's that I won't tell you anything, I'll tell you. Oh,
I want dollars.
It's this in dollars, you understand, that kind of thing. And it's cool. But then if you tell me, I would get upset because I come from a place or I've experienced places where you don't do that. So yes, as a government, you have the power to say, don't do this anymore. Russia at the moment, you know what they are doing, right? Their oil. It's no longer in dollars. Pay us in our currency. And they are paying them in their currency. And their thing is as strong as ever at the moment. So I think it has a lot to do with our people. And if we begin to understand that, you know what, this thing is killing us. And if we don't stop it, it will kill us even more. We'll be in trouble. Year in, year out.
Yes. I hope you're having an understanding. So there's an issue of local content. I always quote, sorry, I saw your hand, but this is the ladies' first time, so I want to. There's an issue of local content, and I always tell people that we are as evil as the politicians because they came from our midst. As whatever that they do that we complain about, we are equally guilty. So that one comes to regulation. Bank of Ghana has issued statements over and over again. Don't transact business in dollars. Let's always transact business in cities. But what do we see? Because what is money? Store of value. So we don't believe in our currency. So we are benchmarking all the time, and it's creating a lot of problems for us.
Would you call the dollar money as a store of currency when it loses value year in, year out? It's not.
You get it? That's the issue. Let's listen to
I
it.
have a question.
Yes, ask a question.
Okay, so my question is, since we are all saying that we shouldn't quote in dollars,
Yes.
why isn't it done this way that, okay, the citizens of Ghana, they quote in cedis, and then those from the foreign countries, then they quote in dollars?
Yes. I like your question. I'll give you the answer. So that's the dynamics in Ghana right now. Let me just try to answer the question. So it's becoming more profitable to do business with expats because they give you dollars and the money doesn't disappear. And you do business with Ghanaians, they give you cedis and the money loses value by the day. So nobody talks about it, and I hope the politicians are not seeing me. And I hope national security will not come after me. When we are doing business, we all want to make money. So who will you sell to? The person wants to pay more. The expert has much more purchasing power. His currency, which was $1,000 10 years ago, is worth maybe equivalent of $900 now. It has lost 10% in 10 years. Our currency, if your salary was 10,000 cedis 10 years ago, it cannot do what 10 cedis was doing 10 years ago. It has lost 700% when he mentioned it. So it is compelling businessmen to do business that is interesting to expats. So everything is becoming expat sensitive and nobody is thinking about the Ghanaian. And that is the biggest problem of affordable housing. Because real estate developers, I am an employee. Anyway, I believe at Lakeside Estate we tried. Can I say here that I'm better than government? My affordable house was $36,000 per unit. They are struggling to do $60,000. Sorry, I'm quoting dollars. Just can't help this. Yes, let's listen.
Well, yeah,
yes.
My little comment based on the discourse so far is
Yes.
particularly I wanted to pick it from the gentleman who repeatedly
Yes.
expressed that concern
Yes.
over the astronomical rate at which land in certain parts of the country is being increasing. You see, in a free flow capitalist economy,
Yes.
there's so much liberal extensions for struggle for resources, right?
Yes.
Who controls the factors of production. However, what is plaguing our own practice of the free flow capitalist economic model is that
Yes.
we have a lot of institutional failures. Institutional
Yes.
failures is the main challenge because free flow means that everybody can do whatever he wants to do.
I'm not cutting you, but the main reason why a lot of people travel out of Ghana, what would they tell you? So, there are poor people in Canada too, but at least their systems work.
You're right.
The institutions don't fail them,
You're right.
but our
So
institutions fail us.
the
I agree with
the
you.
institutions are not working.
Yeah.
So even if you extend the conversation beyond land, sale of lands, right? You come to general goods and services, prices of general goods and services. Look at just within this 1 month, what has happened in the country. Everybody just adds value to whatever they want to do, price their products, services, anyhow.
Yes.
Of course, that's supposed to be the struggle for the competitive nature of the market seizures in the capitalist economy. But when the institutions are working, then you know that when you do things that fouls the law, you get punished.
Yes.
Therefore, that's why I cannot even put the blame on the people,
Yes.
as the other colleague was trying to say that is the people. No, the people are always under check when institutions are working,
But
right?
the institution is
Because-
taking their loans in dollars.
because I would love to drive through the red
Yes.
because I'm in hurry for a meeting.
Yes.
But once it is red, and I know that a police doesn't even have to chase me, when I pass through the red, by the time I get home, a ticket is waiting for me. Nobody chases me. I have to go to the court.
Yes.
If I don't do, eventually I'll find a very uncomfortable place for myself.
Yes.
I'm mindful that no matter how speedy I want to travel, when it's red, it's red. Why are all the institutions not working? Why is Bank of Ghana telling us that don't trade in dollars? Is it a matter of voice alarm? You don't have to do a voice alarm. It's regulation. And therefore, when we find you trading in dollars, it's a simple mechanism. That's why the capitalist system is working in America and other parts of the Western economies. So other than that, those who are the bourgeoisies, of course, they become stronger. So this issue basically is political.
Yes.
It's just a matter of, putting our foot on the
And
ground
being strong.
and saying that this is the law. We
But they
don't
can't
cross
do
the
that.
law. But we are saying the law. We are saying
Because-
that the law is the why you're not obeying the law. Who's supposed to obey the law?
I'll tell you, the president promised us that he will attract foreign investment, and we voted for him. Now you are asking me to let him tell the foreign investors to bring cities, which they don't even want to see.
You see, so we can put a stop to it.
Yes.
If we don't want to import too many products from overseas. It's not the investor. The problem is not with the investor. I have the political
He's a
power.
Ghanaian. He likes made in China rice.
I have
Like
the,
how? Rice.
I have the political power, so I can put the institutions at the port. That will make sure that why are you bringing your rice in the country? Right at the port, it gets seized. Who gets
Now you
problem?
want to see somebody's rice. You're going to be troublesome.
So we have the answer. We have a chief examiner to these all these problems. We just don't want to mark what is right and what is wrong.
You know, at the discuss page, is a lot of the things that we say like it's ideal. Imagine I seize your rice. You're not going to vote for me.
All right, so I like where he's coming from because now we are looking at it from different angles, different lenses, you understand? But I think it's another thing that a lot of times I try to run away from. I try not to push responsibility to the government.
Yes.
You understand? Which a lot of us fall short with, you understand? And I understand that because that was what Kweku was also trying to say.
Yes.
Where are the regulations?
Yes.
Where are the systems to actually control all of these things? But again, I like to also believe that as a people, we should actually take responsibility for our actions. Yes, are we going to say that if we don't have that cane waiting for us, then we are not going to behave ourselves? Or if we don't have a carrot waiting for us, are we not going to behave ourselves?
Yes.
Yes, that kind of thing. And I think that when it comes to a people or a person, it goes down to the basic unit, which is family values. You understand? So if we begin to understand that we can actually take responsibility from our family, the smallest units, my child, if I believe so and not wait that there should be a system, a cane, or you understand, a reward, then I'm not going to behave. Then I think that we've actually failed as a people.
Yes.
You get, yes, systems, structures, and all that, trust me, necessary. It's everywhere in the world. You understand? Even with your dog or cat or anything, don't sleep here, don't do this and all that. But as humans, I think we're actually a level ahead of that, and we should actually take responsibility for our actions.
I like the inputs. Thank God there's no more question. And can we agree now that to change Ghana, we need 20 years? Because we are going to need a new generation of people who are not as terrible as we are, who will not get influenced by our terrible nature, who will stand. Yes.
What we don't realize is that there was redenomination of the city.
Yes.
Okay.
Less than how many years? It's not up to 20 years.
You understand? There was redenomination where we actually took out 4 of the zeros.
Yes.
Do we realize that 1 of the zeros is
It's
actually
gone
back
again
now? And now we're actually back to 3 of the zeros. That is a very, very serious thing. To understand that a few years ago, $1 was a CD, and a few years, 1 of the zeros is actually back. It's a very serious implication.
It's a serious issue. I hope you have an understanding. This is the most interesting presentation I've ever made. We are 1 hour into the presentation, and it's more like
Make an addendum.
yes.
Yes, behaviors, we need to put ourselves in check. But I tell you honestly, when regulations are working, human beings will conform. Because that's the nature of humanity. That's the psychology of humanity.
Yes.
Other than that, we would want to do what our will prevails.
Because human beings were born rebels.
The regulations should just work, and we will conform. When we live here and we go to America and the UK, we behave gentlemanly. because the system is working. You won't put the garbage in the gutter in America. You won't do that.
But do you realize that
here
the
you
people
can
who break the
conveniently
laws
do that.
in
Why?
America are mostly blacks, or at least they are the ones who are caught?
Come again?
I was cracking a joke that even in America, it's the blacks who break the rule, or they are the ones who get caught. So that's a 2-in-1 joke. You get it? Yeah.
You mentioned the UK. I'm from the UK.
Yeah.
I was born,
Tell me that you were a
raised,
terrible guy when you were there.
born, raised, educated, trained there. And apart from the fact that we have surveillance systems in the UK which are always watching you, yeah, there is an inherent sense of like, you know, pride in your job. There is that, yeah. There's an element of discipline, element of like do the right thing, but there's an element of the risk to benefit ratio. In Ghana, it's actually more beneficial to take a risk to do the wrong thing than to do the right thing and not really prosper. In the UK, it's different.
So there's incentive to be evil.
I wouldn't say evil, but you're.
I like to make it. That's the worst.
It's a very dramatic word, evil. But just knowing you're doing the wrong thing, breaking the law, or you know, misleading somebody, being deceptive. In the UK, there's a lot more to lose by doing the wrong thing, and actually, you can steadily gain by doing the right thing consistently from start to finish. And that discipline is kind of like reinforced. The more you do things correctly, it reinforces your behavior.
Nice.
Regulations in Ghana are all written down on paper, not being followed.
They don't go beyond the books.
So discipline is.
Yeah.
I think the guy over there who just left,
Yeah.
he mentioned something about the toilets aren't working in Ghana, or they're not being cleaned properly, and then he kind of swept past that point. But actually, he was hitting on a really important point.
Yes.
Discipline. It's not really a common theme in Ghana, I've noticed.
I like the fact that we've had a discussion. I want to do the presentation then we close. But this is what I want to tell all of us. It's called systems. I remember my biology class when my lecturer said organigram, different levels of organizations. So we have cells, very basic units, doing different works, making an organ, very basic with cells. So that's a higher complication of this thing. They do a lot of works, different works at different times. Then it becomes what? From organ, it becomes system, right? And from system, it becomes organism. So the worst part of these challenges is that nobody is right, nobody is wrong. We all have sophisticated ideas that when blended in the right way by the organism, he fits well, he works out, he gains information, he stays safe, he stays out of the road of an idiot. Like a lot of complex things now put the final picture in hand. So if you blame the brain, hey, my R's and my L's worries me a lot. If you blame the brain for every decision that the human body takes, you will never understand why men do the nasty things that they do. Because sometimes it's induced by the heart, sometimes induced by other things. So the problem is complicated. There is something we can do. There are a few things we cannot do. There are some things we can do that will take 20 years to manifest. There are some things that we can do now, and they may manifest tomorrow. You understand? And then there are some things that we can do, but in some time we cannot do again. Like, I price in dollars and I walk away. There's going to be a day that I'll price in dollars and I'll be jailed. Sometimes I feel like I'm being set up. When I receive calls, I'm very careful. I say CDs, they're like, I want dollars. I say dollars, they say, I want CDs. I say, which one do you want? You understand? So we are all right. And I agree with all of us. And that's the nice thing about affordable housing. We are all right. But now, I have to build a house. You have to pay. Where do we meet each other? So I'll do the presentation and then we close. Do we agree? That's 1 hour of pre-presentation. The presentation is just 5 minutes. So thanks that I have my co-experts here. You saved me. Otherwise, people will realize that I don't know anything. Yes, so what's the best way to execute construction project finance? So the biggest problem in affordable house is finance. If we could buy a 3-bedroom house at Trasaco, we shouldn't be arguing affordable housing. That's why Republic Bank should be here. And then what is greatest definition of the most practical, what is greatest affordable house definition, the most practical in Ghanaian context? Let me tell you the greater definition. And even that definition has expired after 3 years. It says a house has a bedroom, a hall, a kitchen, washroom, place of convenience that you can live in happily. And it doesn't cost more than $60,000. It has already broken your rule. It's talking dollars. If it were talking cities, then that is the definition was made, that amount was 300,000 Ghana cedis.
So, quick question.
Yes.
When did the definition change from cedis to dollars in your definition, in GREDA's definition?
So the definition had always been in dollars.
Always.
Yeah. But because today I want a caveat, I'm arresting myself before I get arrested. And the funny part of it is that the definition can never become in cedis because it will be wrong the next minute if you quote the definition in cedis. Because the inputs of the house, the people want everything imported. And we import with dollars. I'm trying very hard not to talk about the currency. That's the challenge. That's when I was talking about the affordable components on the house. If you build a thatch house, who will buy? If you build a house with clay, baked clay, who will buy? Someone even told me that some very nice houses that I saw, they look like a school block. They want some fancy colors. They want it to look like Will Smith's house. I hope you have an understanding. So when this definition was made, the money that was quoted was 300,000 cedis. Now 300,000 cedis cannot build that house. So it means we will have to be changing the definition every day. That's why when you are defining ideal situations, you try to control the system. So they'll tell you that these are the controls. This has to be at room temperature. This has to be this. This has to be this. And when we finish learning all those things, they told us that ideal situations don't exist. I'm not saying affordable houses don't exist. But if I had a chance, the question that I get all the time is that a young graduate who just got a job, how can he buy our houses? As a young graduate, you just got a job. Why are you buying a house? You don't have a phone. You can't even feed your girlfriend. Talk less of paying her bride price. Then kids start coming in. When are you going to get the money to buy a house? You want to drive a nice car. Already the car is too expensive. He wants to drive some Speedster car instead of using the money to buy a house. Then he wants the house to be cheap and the car to be expensive. What's the cost of a house? I'll leave that question for the girls. Then, what is the way to execute mortgage finance in Ghana? And the mortgage system has also failed. It's so short, 15 years. People who take it do it in 7 years. The interest rate is so high. And they are trying very hard. The banks, they are the best. Me, I was surprised that Republic Bank's interest rate is still what it was 2 years ago. If you look at the mathematics of microfinance in Ghana, they are doing some magic. You know that? Because it's not possible to keep interest rate over the last 6 months. If someone has kept interest rate for you over the last 6 months, you have to put that person among the gods. Right? Unless I'm saying some astronomical stuff. Interest rates in Syria over the last 6 months have doubled. So why did Republic Bank do that? How were they able to do it?
And they cut the market?
Yeah. You get it? So these are the challenges. So my 3 issues to discuss are the 3 challenges of affordable housing. I hope we have an understanding. So let's scroll to the next page. Then we will discuss affordable housing. Then I'll talk about construction finance, which is the easier. So let's build an ideal home in Ghana. Young graduate. He has 10 years experience. He has married his beautiful wife. He's now the manager in a company. How much should we pay him? 10 years experience, has a beautiful wife. You said?
What industry is he working in?
You said?
What industry is he working in?
You see how complicated it is? Let's put him in a nice industry. Where do we put him? These real estate people, they are guilty. Because they are the ones who are pushing the price up. But yet paid little. Now I feel guilty some more. So shall I put him in real estate? So how much will you pay me? I have 5 years experience. I'm not yet married. 8,000. Fantastic. You want to say amen to that? Fantastic. Gross or net? Gross. So if your gross is 8,000 per the new tax regime, so you're going to get like 6,000 net. Fantastic. So my wife will take half what I'm taking. 4,000. Right? I won't marry a woman who is richer than me. She won't respect me. Right? Are we on the same page? So our household income gross is 12,000 Ghana cedis. So our net is 8,000 Ghana cedis. Sorry to disappoint you, but your salary is the CEO's salary of a lot of these companies. But we'll work with it. So let's see how the 10 years experience of the most paid manager of a real estate company, me, in case you like my salary, is taking. What kind of house can I buy? 12,000 net, 8,000. Republic Bank, the money you can use to buy a house is 25% of your net salary. Your disposable income is 25% of your net salary. 2,000 Ghana cedis. So if I live a good life, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't party, I have one wife, I'm faithful, nobody crashes my car, ideal situation. I have 2,000 cedis to buy a house. 2,000 cedis, if I save it for 1 year, I have how much? 24,000 Ghana cedis. In 10 years, I'll have 240,000 Ghana cedis. The government has some definition for affordable house. That's the house you can pay for with your disposable income within the interest rate period. You understand? So if I have 2,000 cedis, 10 years, if interest rate is zero, inflation is zero, all the other economic indicators are zero, I have raised 240,000 Ghana cedis. So assuming I bring that money from the future to today, which has cost implications, but we have zeroed all of them, and I have 240,000 Ghana cedis, what house can I buy? That is affordable house. Does it exist? No. That's the problem. So 240,000. Yes, household income 12,000 net.
It does exist, but it's not going to be a very nice.
240,000 house. It does exist, but it will not be at East Legon, right? It has to be in the water region. When the land is 10,000 cities. Yeah. Or Dudwa.
No, the road between Apollonia
It's going to 25. Yeah.
and that area there.
I hope you're having an understanding. Why did we move it out of those places? Because the land value is low. Why is the land value low? Because nobody wants it. If people begin to want it, what will happen? The land value will shoot up. Those are the dynamics around affordable housing. So when you are doing that thing, you need to get a cheap land in the first place and get some cheap cement. Get some cheap land, which you cannot get. But there is a way, which Ghanaians don't want. So if you want to make East Legon land, because at 210,000, the land should cost you 10%, 24,000. So with the land, that is now like $200,000 now, $2 million if the exchange rate were 10. For you to be able to cost such a land to be worth 20,000, you have to go up high. That's why all over the world, when we sample it, and that's the problem about Ghana, when we want the good, we sample abroad. But what it costs, we want it to keep it African. All over the world, affordable housing is high rise because the unit cost of the land now gets shrunk. You cannot build affordable house on an East Legon land. It doesn't make sense. The property rate will kill you. Ghana, we don't have good property rate system. Because the property rate at East Legon is 10,000 cedis. Your household income net is 8,000. So already you cannot afford to live at East Legon. The problem is bigger than the real estate developer. But how can we help? We have to go up high, build a lot of houses. And how else can we help? Shrink the house. Let's go back to the first. Okay, let's not go. I'll get to that. So the house has to become smaller, which is a Ghanaian problem. The man wants a big house in a big land with swimming pool and all the good stuff. And he calls it affordable. That is a luxury. Swimming pool is a luxury. Big house is a luxury. AC is a luxury. Big space in the bedroom, TV in the bedroom, it's a luxury. TV used to be a luxury, sorry. And with all apologies to my father, when I was born, my father did not have a TV. And maybe by the time I was born my child, I will not have a TV because I don't watch TV. I was trained. I had to adopt it. By the time I realized that people watch TV, it was too late for me to have interest in watching TV because it's a luxury. But now everybody wants a TV. iPhone. Everybody wants an iPhone. You can buy a 40,000 iPhone with a 224. How much did you get? 24,000. So the money cannot even buy you an iPhone. That's how bad the system is. Your disposable income couldn't buy an iPhone. Now you want to use it to buy a house. I hope we have an understanding. So it's very, very troublesome, but we have to help each other. So we have agreed now that the land has to be either very far away, or when you bring it close, you have to go up high. Have we also agreed that the building has to be shrinked? You understand? It has to be just enough. Affordable is just enough. In my hometown, they call it dususo. Dususo means that when you eat and there is some left, that you do some things. But with your household income of 8,000, and with all apologies to you, when we're preparing for this lecture, the household income we use is 2,000. So you are very generous. You have multiplied by 4. But I'm still able to make a point with it. It's a macroeconomic problem. The president and his economic guru, they cannot solve it alone. For the first time in my life, I'm not blaming these people. If not for the camera, I blame them so much. But they cannot solve them alone. We are part of the problem.
Actually,
You understand?
most of the issues you're raising,
Yes.
you're also raising potential solutions.
Yes.
Yeah? Your solutions you're proposing are being hindered, not by practicalities,
Yes.
not by construction, not by economics,
Yes.
but by mentality.
Yes.
Literally,
Yes.
all the counterproductive solutions
Yes.
are becoming counterproductive because of a mentality problem.
Yes.
So that's not really a government issue or an economic
Yes.
issue. That is a people issue,
That's a people
like
issue.
what he was saying.
Yes.
It really is a people issue.
I hope we're having an understanding. So that's what we are trying to do now, because there are a lot of the things we cannot change. You and I cannot change the CD to dollar rate. Can we change the price of cement? No. What can we change? Our lifestyle. One girlfriend is enough. The women like that. If you off the camera, I'll tell you I'm guilty. Construction finance. So we have to talk. So construction finance for developers, smaller problem. It's a problem, but it's smaller. Why? Because loan for developers is expensive. But why is it a smaller problem? Developers are in quote rich, right? Everybody thinks they have money already. They can buy the land, they can build. At least that's the perception, right? But it's a smaller problem, because if the cost at which they are getting the money is high, they move their cost to you. If their employees want to make more money, if I decide to earn 12,000, 8,000 a month, the home buyer has to pay. You get it? If I decide to drive a Land Cruiser Prado or a Nissan Patrol, which I like more, the home buyer has to pay. If I decide to get a rent quota of, how much is rent right now in Ghana? 1,000 cedis a month. You see, it doesn't exist, but that's, if you do the math, because I don't even get a rent quota of 1,000 cedis, which is a big lie. The home buyer has to pay. So we are moving all the cost to the home buyer. So to reduce the price of a house, the cost of construction has to be shrinked as much as possible by eliminating the cost of finance to the developer, which is not possible. Ideal situation, eliminate. Real life situation, reduce. You get it? But that is even a smaller problem, because developers are rich and famous, right? This is the big problem. Mortgage credit for households is too big a problem. You know, they called me. I won't tell you which bank. They said, how much is my net? I mentioned it. So how much am I qualified for? They said, I'm qualified for 95,000 Ghana cedis. I said, the house, as at the time we were talking, before the big inflation, was 185,000 Ghana cedis. So the house that I chose, say, all my other colleagues did not choose this house. Because me, I didn't really like it. Anyway, that was after I developed it 3 times. It was very small. We made it a little bit bigger. We put in wardrobes. We put in, the washroom was a little bit bigger. We put internet. We put water storage. The third one that I chose is costing twice what I can afford. And in finance, that is a terrible investment decision. So, by virtue of our taste, we are becoming poor, and the politicians cannot help us. I hope we are having an understanding. But that's the bigger problem. How can we give good mortgage? At this point, let's clap for Akufo-Addo. He did something He said for government employees, I say, the government paid my school fee, but the government didn't give me a job. Then he said, oh, all Ghanaian taxpayers. What did he do? He subsidized the loan. It's no longer affordable housing. What is it? Social housing. So what Akufo-Addo did was fantastic, but it's not part of our topic because he has absorbed the cost. And when government begins to absorb cost of things, what is happening? It's no longer sustainable because it gets abused. They don't say it in the political campaigns. That's why a lot of the government issues, they're not sustainable. There is tendency for abuse. The moment somebody, I had to learn this the hard way, the moment somebody is paying for what you are getting, the next thing is abuse, right? So that's the problem, but he did a good thing. At least he'll get some more votes. So that's good. Let's go to the next thing. So the next one, 5 principles to execute a successful construction project in Ghana, credibility and track record. With no pun intended, you cannot buy an affordable house from a company that has not built a house before. They don't know. Our first one, I didn't like it. The second one, I didn't like it. I love the third one. So if someone has not built it before and he builds the first one, he himself doesn't like it, why should you buy? You understand? He doesn't know that the price of cement is going to double by the time he's done building it. So he does a BOQ today. And I told you my cousin was buying tiles. The price increased in his, they changed the price. He wanted to buy a particular quantity. He bought less quantity because he had already mobilized all the gods and riches of the family before he was there. You understand? So the person must have credibility. The person must have done this before. The person must know what he's talking about. The person, at the beginning of the lecture, we agreed that what? Salespeople are no longer just salespeople. They should become consultants. They should be able to discuss with you. How much do you have? Do you make any other money? Do you have a rich cousin? Do you have a rich uncle? Do you get tips at work? You have to talk about, does your girlfriend like Brazilian hair? How many of them are they? Do you send your mom money? Those are the realities. Are you paying your siblings' school fees? You understand? Do you drink and smoke? Are you addicted to something else? Do you waste productive time watching movies? Do you make money with your mobile phone? You understand? Does your company pay 13th month? Did you get cola? Because all these monies are coming here. I hope you're having an understanding. So the person must come to understand that, oh, in Ghana, it dawned on me. Somebody had MP's salary. When we did the math, he couldn't buy. These are the richest people in the country, or the most paid people at least. 20,000 cedis. They couldn't buy their dream house. Then you have to now appreciate that, no, that's not what it is. But what it is? What is it? Ghanaians are able to do more than mathematically seen. So tell me, what else is behind the scene? Then you write it down, you understand? Because the average Ghanaian's tips is more than his salary. That's why they don't complain about their salary. And when you move them from a place where there is tip to a place where there is no tip, they quit the job. So you have to know, I have to learn this the hard way. Now I cannot see your salary and tell you are poor. You get it? Next slide. Fantastic. So planning and prototype. This is what we have been doing all this while. So I have identified the problem. Let me brag a little, or you don't think I did? Because I did a lot of research. Then we had ideas. Okay? So right now we are generating ideas. The first one out of the lecture, I was fishing ideas, and I got a real lot. So we now plan. Then when we plan, during the plan, we realize that it's not adding up. You might have to go back and forth. You get it? Or sometimes when it works, then you come to what? Create. You get it? When you create and it works, you keep going. But we created our first prototype, it didn't work. So we went back, got ideas from who? The buyers. When they came and said the house is too small, I don't like it. We said, okay, we'll make it bigger. Say no wardrobe, I don't like it. I said, okay, we'll put wardrobe. Then we now come back again. Then we test and evaluate. It was fantastic. Then we share and reflect. And at the reflection state, the person who was the leader of the project, me, I met a man who was buying a house, affordable house. We thought affordable house buyers don't have a car, right? The average Ghanaian shouldn't have a car. Car is a luxury. Or he just completed school. You can stop the recording and pick this call. Talk to my lovely mom. So the person said the house owner will have at least 2 cars. I'm like, hey, who are we building affordable houses for in Ghana? Our affordable house owners, they have 2 cars. The best part of it, I was guilty. I was broke. I had nothing to my name. I was a young graduate, the kind of people we argued to buy houses. And I was driving 2 cars, or even more. I had seized my mom's car, I had seized my father's car, and occasionally I seized my director's car. So how can you build a house for someone who has managed to raise 24,000 a year and you don't have parking space? This was at this stage, so we had to come back here. You understand? That's why the first stage said it cannot be your first time. That's why government cannot build affordable housing. Because by the time they are doing it, everybody there is new. They change every 4 years. You understand? So they start before they realize that it's not adding up. The location, nobody is coming there. At least not when I have that money. And if you give it to me for me free, why not? Then it gets abused. You understand? So that's the problem. So when you reflect, you realize that, so we were going to build 4 blocks. We built 3.5 blocks. That's the smaller one at the down. Then we took the whole place and we made it parking. Was that not what we told you? We lost a potential of $180,000. If the company is not rich and famous, can they lose that much? That's our profit. So affordable housing is not profitable. So a lot of people, they come to buy, they say, what's the discount? I say, this kind of house, there's no discount. They are selling it at cost. You understand? And that's why sometimes it's even difficult to price in CDs, because by the time we are done selling, we cannot reproduce it. You have to track the cost of replacement, which is a complicated economic something. To make it easy, you just choose the currency with the least inflation. That's how come dollar is having the power it's having. Because as a business owner, if you don't use the currency with the least inflation, you are losing your profit. Let's not talk profit. Affordable housing, there's no, your overhead, which is in the next this thing. You are losing your overhead to inflation. I hope you have an understanding. So let's go there. Fantastic. Oh, this one is the best. So ideal situation, it should be 6 to 10% red. That's what we like. Is heavier than us. That's what everybody would have won. It doesn't exist in Ghana because we should chop cities. 12 to 17% is okay. That's what we like. Green. But it's not holding weight. Why? Because it is 25% as we speak. And the 25%, I was impressed that they kept it at 25% over the last 12 months. I salute Republic Bank and all the other banks. Keeping it at 25% was a magic. They did it, but it's not adding up. Because at 8%, your money doubles every 8 months, every 8 years. 8% per annum. At 17%, your money doubles every 5 years. At 25%, simple interest, which I said earlier, your money doubles every 4 years, simple interest. But in reality, compound interest, your money doubles every 3 years at 25%. Does it make sense that I buy a house, after 3 years, I should pay twice the cost? Then you will be tempted to think, then let me wait. After 3 years, then I buy the house. And after 3 years, you can't even start because the cost has quadrupled. So it's a better idea to pay twice than pay 4 times, right? So we don't have any choice. Our hands are tied. That's the issue with the interest rate. You and I think we can't solve it. The person you are waiting for to come and solve it, he can't solve it too. Because we are eating Chinese rice in December. Please, if you think Akufo-Addo is the problem for this country, I am not an MPP man, I'm a Voltarian. But please, if you think Akufo-Addo is the bad man, eat made in Ghana this Christmas. Buy made in Ghana. Wear made in Ghana. Don't use iPhone. Use their phone made in Ghana. It's terrible. So I hope you have an answer. It's the taste for foreign. So we are living in Ghana, but we are paying US price. And the US doesn't care about us. We'll pay more. We'll be poor by the day. Project managers. I like this place the most because this is how I get paid. But home buyers don't like this place. A woman called me and said, do I know somebody who can read plan? I said, definitely. That sounds like an architect, a civil engineer, or a construction. No. Just somebody who can read the plan. I said, no problem. I can get you a foreman. I said, okay, what project is this? She sent me a big and complicated drawing. Bro, that project was a $1 million construction then. $1 million then was 10 million Ghana cedis. Now, maybe 50 million Ghana cedis. You have 50 million Ghana cedis. 150 billion. You don't want to pay an architect. You don't want to pay a civil engineer. You don't want to pay a safety officer. You don't want to pay an accountant. You are going to lose your money. Why? Because I'm expensive. Right? I know you are making money. I'll charge you a lot. But it's worth it. The architect, oh, this guy is too expensive. I don't like them. But you have to pay these people. It's a real cost. But when we are trying to save, you want to eliminate these people. You build a house, it's leaking. The roof falls during construction. After 2 months, the roof is leaking. The paint falls off. The tiles scatter. You understand? The sewage has filled. So you cannot build affordable without professionals. So they came, especially some of these government issues, you realize that it doesn't work. When they start, you just abandon it because the project doesn't even live to see it. It's like trying to have a baby without a doctor. Then they will tell you that my grandmother, she gave birth to my father without a doctor. Hey! Your grandmother, that she was working out every day. Yeah, I hope you have an understanding. So you need professionals. They charge you a lot, but they save you a lot of money. I hope you have an understanding. And they have done this over and over again. They have credibility. They have seen it over and over. I hope you have an understanding. So scroll up. Then, oh, it scrolled so fast. You're already thanking the people. I like this place, corporate governance. This is my favorite part of the, you see, what we are coming to talk about is not governance, it's trying to stay out of the issue. Accounting department, can you work a little magic with these figures? In fact, can you make them disappear? Because the numbers never add up. And that's the reality. And that's why we are struggling. So if the people cannot practice integrity and his salary is 8,000, but he's spending 10,000 a month, your house is becoming more expensive. You understand? So when you take a foreman and you are paying him 1,000 cedis, and then the cement, he either adds more sand or some other things. He adds more water. He's doing all manner of things to make money. Your house is becoming more expensive. Fiscal discipline. That's the most famous political word in these days. You understand? All these things affect affordable housing. Thank God most of us are developers. This one is the least said, but the most risky of all. Because one man can run everything down. One man can make a bad decision and the camera is still on. The same house that when they started, they wanted it to cost $50,000. They didn't even tell us cities. If they told us cities, the government would have lost money trying to pay the losses. Even the 50,000 could not finish it. They should raise money to finish it. They don't have money to finish it. I'm not a politician, but sorry. They have money to feed students. They have money for free education and those stuff. So they are now telling you that they have to sell it to somebody else. I hope it's a good deal. And I hope that person is not a politician. And that person comes to buy it, his father Christmas. So he buys it for 50,000, then he'll sell it for you for 45,000. Is that what you are expecting? No. He was going to spend more money. You understand? Even the government, if they do it themselves, they are going to spend more money. So the house is no longer affordable. It's becoming astronomically more expensive by the day. Is it his fault? No. It's incompetent John Mahama. When they came to inherit it, have they fixed it? No. Would they fix it? No. John Mahama will come back. He will come and fix it. Then it continues. Then he will give it to his people. Then you say, why is that when they build the house, they give it to only their people? Because the way they built it, only their people can take it. I'm speaking the way Ghanaians, or is that not what we are all thinking that we are not bold enough to say? That's why I reduce my voice. If somebody manages to hear this one, the person wanted what he got. Is there? Yes, they hear me. I'm not scared of politicians. I believe I'm done. And I'm sure nobody has any question because we all made contributions at the beginning. Any questions? think my presentation was quite tensious. Thank you. Let's go to thank you. He's talking to his girlfriend. Because of him, your house is becoming more expensive. You can't even bring thank you up. I hope you have an understanding. So that's the reality about this affordable housing issue. It's people usually we ask, is it a myth or a reality? I think it's a myth because houses are not affordable. House is a luxury, but we want to build more cost-efficient house, real, achievable, that people can buy within a particular time. Thank you very much. I believe I'm done. I asked for questions and nobody had questions. So I'm sure the next presentation is coming up now. Yes. Bye.
Thank you all very much for coming in. We'll be having our next presentation in the next 5 minutes.
Okay.
If that is okay.
Yes.
So our next presentation actually is on all you need to know about land acquisition. I heard all of you talking about land.
We should have done this before.
Before you afford.
Yes, because that's our biggest problem. Sorry. So,
Thank you all for
I'm tired of sitting.
showing up today for our seminar for day 3. We've
Yes, sir.
had
Nice to meet you.
an elaborate discussion on affordable housing. We would be continuing with all you need to know about land acquisition in Ghana. And we would like to just give you some 5 minutes to a 5 minutes break. If not, then whilst we prepare for our next speaker to take over. So he's the CEO for Dikpe Estates, a GREDA member, and he has a PhD, he has LLB, BBB, a whole lot of plenty qualifications, and he talks a lot on the issues about land. So Mr. Kaka Deloziem, right, would be our next presenter for today, telling us all we need to know about land acquisition. If we are ready for him, let us give him a round of applause as he comes to the stage.
Access to your news at any time and anywhere. Graphic Communication is giving you the opportunity to have news not only in hard copy but also in a digital form. Yes, you can have access to news at all times and even before they reach the newsstands. Simply download the Graphic News Plus from Google Play Store on your Android and App Store on your iOS device and get your digital news from your favorite daily graphic, Graphic Business, The Mirror, Graphic Showbiz, Junior Graphic, and Graphic Sports. Download your Graphic News Plus now and choose your preferred package daily, weekly, monthly, and annually, and access free news on various interest areas as well. Visit us on graphic.com.gh for further information. Graphic News Plus, connecting people through news.
Amid a storm of protests from the Gold Coast nationalists who feared that a newspaper company owned by a British national would frustrate their fight for independence from Britain, Graphic Communications Group Limited, or GCGL, was established as a private business in 1950 by the Daily Mirror Group of Britain. At that time, the company was named the West African Graphic Company Limited. Cecil Hamsworth King Jr., who was in charge of the Daily Mirror's Group West African operations, was the founder chief executive of the company. Company appointed Martin Thurston Kofi, a Ghanaian, as the first editor of the Daily Graphic and later the Sunday Mirror, which is now the Mirror.
When the Graphic newspaper was established in the Gold Coast in 1950, there were numerous newspapers in the country already, but these many newspapers were mostly newspapers run by the nationalists who were fighting for independence at the time. So these newspapers tended to be more agitational, more adversarial, and more propagandistic. When the Graphic entered on 2nd October 1950, it introduced a more modern, professional journalism.
By 12 o'clock on that day, all the 2,000 copies of the newspaper sent to the newsstands had been bought. The Daily Graphic had become an instant must-read and set itself apart from its competitors. It has never looked back. 3 years later, on August 2nd, 1953, the company published its second newspaper, the Sunday Mirror, now the Mirror. In 1957, the Gold Coast gained independence from Britain and changed its name to Ghana. This eventually led to a change of name of the company from West African Graphic Company Limited to Ghana Graphic Company Limited. Ghana took over the company from 8 British owners in 1964. Again, in 1965, the name of the company was changed to Graphic Corporation. But it was in 1971 that the legislative instrument Graphic Corporation Instrument 1971 LI 709 was passed to incorporate the company as a statutory corporation in compliance with the Statutory Corporations Act 1964, Act 232. In 1973, the company diversified into packaging, setting up the graphic packaging department.
Our business is primarily to do commercial printing, packaging, and then book work. We have been in this industry for 47 good years, and we are renowned for our packaging material, our books, and also our commercial printing. As one of the biggest commercial print or book printers in the country, we have the capacity to do high volumes of work.
Later in 1976, Graphic Packaging became a full subsidiary, now called GPAC. In that same year, Graphic bought its second press and became the first in the print media industry in Ghana to install a semi-automatic Harris web offset press. It then increased its newspapers to 3 by adding the Graphic Sports to the Daily Graphic and the Mirror on the 23rd April 1985. 10 years later, in 1995, the company retooled with Heidelberg Harris Press, an upgraded version of the semi-automatic Harris web offset press, able to print color. Again, Graphic became the first in the print media industry in Ghana to print newspapers in color. The company's 4th newspaper, Graphic Showbiz, was then introduced February 1998. Then the company changed its name again in 1999 to its current name, Graphic Communications Group Limited, after converting to a limited liability company, and introduced the Junior Graphic on 6th September to mark its golden jubilee in 2000. The graphic business was also launched on 26th August 2008. The company retooled again in 2012 with a KBA Comet Press, a more modern, efficient press that can print 75,000 copies per hour. Also, the company diversified into courier service in 2014. In its many years of existence, Graphic has reported on many epoch-making events.
We have covered very significant stories in Ghana's history. By that, we have kept an accurate and truthful primary record of the nation's political, social, and economic history that researchers even rely on to ascertain historical facts. I can say without any doubt that Graphic is the conscience of the nation and one of the repositories of the nation's true history from 1950 onwards.
Graphic covered Independence Declaration, the first coup in Ghana, the release of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah from prison to become Prime Minister, the construction of the Ekosombo Dam, the referendum that legally made Ghana a one-party state, the assassination attempt on Kwame Nkrumah, all the military takeovers, Ghana's first change of government by the ballot, Ghana's first World Cup appearance, the first challenge of the legitimacy of an elected president of the Republic of Ghana, the death of a sitting president for the first time, and many more. Over the many decades that the GCGL has been in existence, it has always proved to be the best. Countless awards, both individual and corporate, international and national, stand in testimony to this. Journalists of Graphic have won the Ghana Journalists Association's GJA most prestigious award, Journalist of the Year, 11 times. No other media organization has won it this many. Here is the list of honor. Ajwa Yebu Afari, 1972. Alhaji El Alawa, 1975. 1976, runner-up in 1977, and winner in 1978.
So it meant I had won it 3 times. Once as runner-up, 3 times as winner.
Albert Sam, 1991. Yabwedu Aibuafo, 1995. Sydney Abugri, 1998. Joe Agri, 1999. Kofi Akodo, 2008. Akuba Nase, 2013. And Doreen Hammond, 2018. As for the other awards from the GJA, GCGL has lost count of the number of times its journalists have won them. The company also won the GJA's Best Designed Newspapers. The Chartered Institute of Marketing, CIMG, has awarded Media Organization of the Year to the company 7 times: 2004, 2005, 2009, 2012, 2014, 2015, and 2018. This is yet to be equaled by any media organization. CIMG also awarded the company the Marketing Oriented Company of the Year 2014. This recognition of graphics excellence goes beyond the shores of Ghana. Indeed, in 2013, the Business Initiative Direction, or BID Spain, awarded the company the International Star Award for Quality in the Gold category. Graphic Communications Group Limited's professional approach to journalism earned credibility for its news. The very first day, it put the first edition of Daily Graphic on the newsstands in 1950. Thus, in Ghana, Graphic has come to symbolize newspaper, while Graphic Online is a preferred website for verification of stories readers read on social media or elsewhere on the internet. Before stories are published, the editorial team takes them through serious discussion and critical analysis to ensure that they meet ethical standards of journalism and GCGL.
We are very professional at our work and always insist on our fact-checking verification principles. For us at Graphic, we don't compromise on our editorial independence, which we combine with keen sense of objectivity, balance, and fairness to all opinions. Readers know this, so they always want and prefer the Graphic news. Sorry, I have to let out the secret, but this is what has kept us on top as a leading media house with must-read news since 1950.
For Graphic, the language of the story is as important as the substance, so proofreaders carefully look through the stories to correct mistakes. All of this is to ensure accuracy and balance of reportage, as well as selection of stories that make impact on society.
I particularly like the new Graphic, the new face of Graphic. I think that Graphic is practicing some of the principles that I have shared with my students in my class about making your stories easy to read, visually appealing, and expanding on the range of story types that you produce, particularly features and pictures.
One of the company's values is customer focus. True to this value, Graphic ensures that its advertising service and news brands are truly a delight to customers. A team of well-trained, customer-oriented staff at the adverts unit work with customers to achieve customer expectation.
There's no doubt in my mind that graphic publications are the number one in their category. And therefore, in placing your campaign or advertising in the newspapers, you are definitely bound to get the results at once. The impact of your campaign is always there. And of course, if you research, you realize that the results you wanted out of it, you always got.
For us at Graphic, a product or service means quality that delights our customer. This is at the heart of what it is that we do every day. Our customers know what it is that they're looking for, and it is important that we give this to them to satisfy those needs.
I've been in the business for about 20 years now. So if I'm talking about things that concern the business, I know what I'm talking about. Graphic, unlike the other business, is the vehicle that moves our business. We depend most on graphic, and then the other papers, they support us.
GCGL's publications have quality in content and form because the company has great journalists, some of the finest printers, and the most modern printing machines.
In ensuring that we run this gear at the highest and optimal level of production, we ensure that our engineers and technical partners are well trained both locally and abroad to ensure that these machines serve the purposes for which we've invested in.
Though GCGL is a state-owned media organization, it has never been on government subvention. It operates profitably and relies on its own resources to meet its operational needs. It then pays dividends to the state. Graphic has one of the best human resource policies any company can have. Additionally, the company has some of the best professionals in all the areas of its operations.
In recruiting our staff, who are the bedrock of this business, we go through a thorough, painstaking process to ensure that we have the best of breed for this business. Therefore, the process may be slow for some, but it is rather rigorous for the business. And we ensure that we come up with the best and put in place packages that make us reward these individuals who come through the portfolio with the right levels of talent, integrity, competence, and capacity to enable us drive this business forward.
To ensure good health of its employees, Graphic runs a staff clinic manned by a resident medical doctor and professional nurses. The clinic takes care of employees and their families. Graphic has staff buses to help employees to come to work and return home in comfort. The company also motivates its employees with various incentives such as the Best Worker and Loyalty Awards. These welfare policies have paid off in excellence, resulting in the company and its employees winning awards. Graphic recognizes its responsibility towards society, so it embarks on social responsibility to help deal with some of the challenges of society. The company therefore runs a trust fund, the Graphic Needy Trust Fund, that helps needy people to get medical treatment that is otherwise beyond their means. This has saved many lives. The company also runs an annual free healthcare project for Adabraka, the community that hosts it. Project registers the vulnerable in the community with the National Health Insurance Scheme, apart from giving free health screening. Some selected deprived schools across the country get free copies of the Junior Graphic to help deal with poor reading habits among the school children. As Graphic represents excellence in journalism, it promotes excellence in journalism institutions by awarding prizes to the best journalism student of the AUCC, as well as the best communication student of the Ghana Institute of Journalism.
What does the future hold for this business? I would say the future is bright, considering the capacity that is at our disposal, the people that we have developed, and the environment in which we've honed ourselves to compete in. We'll continue to make the right decisions for this business and for the stakeholders who are partners to this project. We are digitizing our operations to ensure that we compete meaningfully and continue to serve the millennial needs of our audience member networks. Therefore, our readers will continue to get the best of breed from both our print and digital verticals as we migrate into this deep ecosystem of print and digital. We know that the most critical resource for achieving all of these will be our people and continue to remain at the heart of everything and every decision that we make. We will continue to hone their abilities and liberate their potentials so that they continue to deliver a creative output that is compelling to the needs of the market. I would therefore say that the future is indeed bright.
storm of protests from the Gold Coast nationalists who feared that a newspaper company owned by a British national would frustrate their fight for independence from Britain, Graphic Communications Group Limited, or GCGL, was established as a private business in 1950 by the Daily Mirror Group of Britain. At that time, the company was named the West African Graphic Company Limited. Cecil Hamsworth King Jr., who was in charge of the Daily Mirror's Group West African operations, was the founder chief executive of the company. Company appointed Martin Thurston Kofi, a Ghanaian, as the first editor of the Daily Graphic and later the Sunday Mirror, which is now the Mirror.
When the graphic newspaper was established in the Gold Coast in 1950, there were numerous newspapers in the country already. But these many newspapers were mostly newspapers run by the nationalists who were fighting for independence at the time. So these newspapers tended to be more agitational, more adversarial, and more propagandistic. When the Graphic entered on 2nd October 1950, it introduced a more modern, professional journalism.
By 12 o'clock on that day, all the 2,000 copies of the newspaper sent to the newsstands had been bought. The Daily Graphic had become an instant must-read and set itself apart from its competitors. It has never looked back. 3 years later, on August 2nd, 1953, the company published its second newspaper, the Sunday Mirror, now the Mirror. In 1957, the Gold Coast gained independence from Britain and changed its name to Ghana. This eventually led to a change of name of the company from West African Graphic Company Limited to Ghana Graphic Company Limited. Ghana took over the company from 8 British owners in 1964. Again, in 1965, the name of the company was changed to Graphic Corporation. But it was in 1971 that the legislative instrument, Graphic Corporation Instrument 1971, LI 709, was passed to incorporate the company as a statutory corporation in compliance with the Statutory Corporations Act 1964, Act 232. In 1973, the company diversified into packaging, setting up the graphic packaging department.
Our business is primarily to do commercial printing, packaging, and then book work. We have been in this industry for 47 good years, and we are renowned for our packaging material, our books, and also our commercial printing. As one of the biggest commercial print or book printers in the country, we have the capacity to do high volumes of work.
Later in 1976, Graphic Packaging became a full subsidiary, now called GPAC. In that same year, Graphic bought its second press and became the first in the print media industry in Ghana to install a semi-automatic Harris web offset press. It then increased its newspapers to 3 by adding the Graphic Sports to the Daily Graphic and the Mirror on the 23rd April 1985. 10 years later, in 1995, the company retooled with Heidelberg Harris Press, an upgraded version of the semi-automatic Harris web offset press, able to print color. Again, Graphic became the first in the print media industry in Ghana to print newspapers in color. The company's 4th newspaper, Graphic Showbiz, was then introduced February 1998. Then the company changed its name again in 1999 to its current name, Graphic Communications Group Limited, after converting to a limited liability company, and introduced the Junior Graphic on 6th September to mark its golden jubilee in 2000. The graphic business was also launched on 26th August 2008. The company retooled again in 2012 with a KBA Comet Press, a more modern, efficient press that can print 75,000 copies per hour. Also, the company diversified into courier service in 2014. In its many years of existence, Graphic has reported on many epoch-making events.
we have covered very significant stories in Ghana's history. By that, we have kept an accurate and truthful primary record of the nation's political, social, and economic history that researchers even rely on to ascertain historical facts. I can say without any doubt that Graphic is the conscience of the nation and one of the repositories of the nation's true history from 1950 onwards.
Graphic covered Independence Declaration, the first coup in Ghana, the release of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah from prison to become Prime Minister, the construction of the Ekosombo Dam, the referendum that legally made Ghana a one-party state, the assassination attempt on Kwame Nkrumah, all the military takeovers, Ghana's first change of government by the ballot, Ghana's first World Cup appearance, the first challenge of the legitimacy of an elected president of the Republic of Ghana, the death of a sitting president for the first time, and many more. Over the many decades that the GCGL has been in existence, it has always proved to be the best. Countless awards, both individual and corporate, international and national, stand in testimony to this. Journalists of Graphic have won the Ghana Journalists Association's GJA most prestigious award, Journalist of the Year, 11 times. No other media organization has won it this many. Here is the list of honor. Ajwa Yebu Afari, 1972. Alhaji El Alawa, 1975. 1976, runner-up in 1977, and winner in 1978.
So it meant I'd won it 3 times. Once as runner-up, 3 times as winner.
Albert Sam, 1991. Yabwedu Aibuafo, 1995. Sydney Abugri, 1998. Joe Agri, 1999. Kofi Akodo, 2008. Akuba Nase, 2013. And Doreen Hammond, 2018. As for the other awards from the GJA, GCGL has lost count of the number of times its journalists have won them. The company also won the GJA's Best Designed Newspapers. The Chartered Institute of Marketing, CIMG, has awarded Media Organization of the Year to the company 7 times: 2004, 2005, 2009, 2012, 2014, 2015, and 2018. This is yet to be equaled by any media organization. CIMG also awarded the company the Marketing Oriented Company of the Year 2014. This recognition of graphics excellence goes beyond the shores of Ghana. Indeed, in 2013, the Business Initiative Direction, or BID Spain, awarded the company the International Star Award for Quality in the Gold category. Graphic Communications Group Limited's professional approach to journalism and credibility for its news. The very first day, it put the first edition of Daily Graphic on the newsstands in 1950. Thus, in Ghana, Graphic has come to symbolize newspaper, while Graphic Online is a preferred website for verification of stories readers read on social media or elsewhere on the internet. Before stories are published, the editorial team takes them through serious discussion and critical analysis to ensure that they meet ethical standards of journalism and GCGL.
We are very professional at our work and always insist on our fact-checking verification principles. For us at Graphic, we don't compromise on our editorial independence, which we combine with keen sense of objectivity, balance, and fairness to all opinions. Readers know this, so they always want and prefer the Graphic news. Sorry, I have to let out the secret, but this is what has kept us on top as the leading media house with must-read news since 1950.
For Graphic, the language of the story is as important as the substance. So,
my name is Kaka Deloziem. I'm to present on the topic land acquisition, or let me put it, due diligence procedure in acquisition of land in Ghana and registration. But it's all about land, everything about land. We will discuss it if time allows us. I'm told I have just 55 minutes I've already spent off part of my time. I'm a law lecturer and I don't teach in one university. So I'm always very busy, especially on Saturdays like this. I am also the CEO of GREDA Estate, and I am a land and property consultant. So I'll try to be brief, but the reason why I have to let them project the act is much more paramount, because I'm well aware since 2020 that this act was put in force, or was being enacted to replace many of the existing acts. Not much has been done to make the public known so much about it, except GREDA, that I know GREDA have done so well, and we've organized some seminars and other things. I believe some people have made a lot of effort to it, but I know GREDA made so much contribution to the coming to force of this act. To start with, this discussion is more legal than just an ordinary discussion. So as I speak, we'll be doing much more on some references to some legal material, especially the Act and the Constitution. There are other legal materials that we could refer, but I think I would try to talk on them and make sure we make references to the Act and the Constitution of Ghana. I would like to start with what land is. That is the most important thing about properties in Ghana. When we talk of property, anyway, could be both movable and immovable. But I am aware I'm to deal with the immovable properties, and therefore I would limit myself to land. Before I go into dealing with the whole chemistry of land, I would like us to understand what really land is, and the act, the law that was enacted in respect to Land Act has defined what land is. And I would like you to scroll to section 281 of the act. It's quite long, but we'll try to refer to it. But let me first of all discuss with you what 281. And 281, section 281 is the interpretation section of the Land Act. Anyway, if you look at the act, it's Act number 1036, and it was enacted in 2020. So the full title is Land Act 1036, and normally you see it in brackets, Act number 2020. That is the year that the act was being enacted. But if you go to 281, that is the interpretation section of the act. It defines what land is. It gives us the full definition of what land really is, or what land generally is. And it says land includes the solid surface of the earth, trees, plant, crops, and other vegetation, a part of the earth's surface covered by water, any house, building, or structure whatsoever, and any interest or right in, to, or over immovable property. So this is what the Act section 281, you can see that is the interpretation section. That is the definition it gives to land. So that is why when somebody has a land and you have the funds, you go and build on it, and then you claim ownership. You go to court. What comes to the conclusion of the court is that whatever is on the land is the land. So when they talk of land generally, it's about the land itself and everything on the land, beneath or above the land to a certain reasonable space. So that is why airspace, planes and other things can fly. You can put some, what do I call it? This advert that sometimes the sky, whatever, and somebody will tell you that you are interfering on his land. Why? Because the reasonable space or height in which you have hung your thing, either an advert, something or whatever, and there are, in thought, there is a case like that where it says that the space within which the advert was being placed enters into the person's land space, and therefore you are causing an interference on his land. So water form part of land, trees form part of land, houses form part of land. So you don't see houses alone and say, okay, that alone is the land. But land contains everything, even including minerals. But the only exception with minerals containing the land is the fact that there is a legislation that says that any time there's a mineral on the land, then that belongs to the state. So we'll discuss that later. So that is generally what land is, and that is how you should be able to see land generally, in terms of the fact that land contains everything, including building, trees, water, and some reasonable level of the airspace. You see that? So that is what land is. And 281, section 281 defines that, and that is basically limited to what the law says about land. I would again deal with 4 categories of land ownership in Ghana. Very, very fundamental. Now, what are these 4 categories of land ownership in Ghana? But before I talk of the 4 categories of land ownership in Ghana, I would like to refer you to Article 18 of the Constitution. It gives room for every citizen. When I say citizen, a citizen could also include both natural and artificial persons. We talk in law, when we talk of natural persons, we are dealing with people who have breath like you and I, right? When we talk of artificial persons, we are dealing with companies that have been birthed through registration, right? Even the natural person, we are registered before we are identified as persons. No person is existing without a name. So when you born a person, he's registered, and that identifies him as a person. So the artificial persons are also born by way of registration, and they also have names, and therefore these are the persons I'm trying to identify. So Article 18 of our Constitution, and permit me to read that out, because when it comes to law, I don't want to try to miss anything but than to say it as it is, so that we are all well educated. Article 18 of our Constitution, 1992 Constitution, says that every person has a right to own properties, either alone or in association with others. And Clause 2 of the Article 18 says that no person shall be subjected to interference with the privacy of his home, property, correspondence, or communication except in accordance with law, and as may be necessary in a free and democratic society for public safety or the economic well-being of the country, for the protection of health or morals, for the prevention of the disorder or crime, or for the protection of the right or freedoms of others. So that is very clear for us to understand that property ownership is a matter of law, and for that matter, the Constitution is final, or has finalized it for us. So everybody, as a citizen, either natural or artificial, has right to own properties, including land. All right, so let me now deal with the 4 categories of land ownership in Ghana. We have public or state lands. Then we also have vested lands. We have stool or skin lands. We have stool lands as in the most part of the southern part of Ghana, and skin land in the most part of the northern part of Ghana. Then we have the private or family land. When I say private here, it also includes individuals and families, all that. So these are the 4 categories of land that I would like to discuss. And each of these categories of land is administered differently. When it's public land, when it's vested land, when it's a stool or skin land, or when it's a family or private land, is administered differently. But over 80%, I must say, statistics shows that over 80% of all lands in Ghana are held by stool or skin families, and only 20% belong to the state. So there are various registrable interests associated with the 4 categories of land ownership in Ghana. Let me repeat myself. What are these 4 categories of land ownership in Ghana? They are the public or state lands. That is number 1. Number 2 is vested lands. Number 3 is skin or stool lands. And then number 4 is private and family lands. So you should take note of these categories of lands. Because I'm a lecturer, I'll be speaking to you as if I'm lecturing you. It's sort of in a form of discussion, the way my brother practicalized his submissions. And I was so much grateful to be part of the lecture that he delivered. Now, the registrable interest in lands. I would like you to scroll to section 1 of the Act. Still go through, you just go. I would like all of you to see it, the registrable interest in land under the 4 categories that I've just discussed. Keep going, just go beyond the, yes. Come back, yes. Come back, yes, like down again. Section 1, yeah. Okay, let me see, come back, no. Just scroll down, yes, up. So come to 1, no. Come to 1, come down, keep coming. No, yes. Just be going up again, yeah. Yes, so good. So have you seen that? So that is section 1 of the Act. That's interest in what? Land. I want you to see it yourself, because law is about reference. This is, when we say law, it is empirical. It is enacted by Parliament, and it's a public document for every citizen, including the artificial persons, right? Because companies have right to own properties. So section 1 of the Act deals with the various interests in land in Ghana. And first is the allodial title. Second is the freehold, right? We have the customary freehold. We have the common law freehold. Then we have the leasehold. Then we have the tenancy. Then we have the license. So you see that it gives us the allodial, the common law freehold, the customary law freehold, the usufructuary freehold, the leasehold interest, and the customary tenancy. Am I right? So these are the various interests in land ownership that fall within the 4 categories I have mentioned. So registration of